So we got another shorter episode of Rwby today, which is unfortunate as that means we only got about 12 minutes of actual Rwby content, but I'm pretty sure the writers of Rwby are gearing up for a longer episode within the last 3 episodes of Volume 7. My guess would be episode 12 is going to be closer to half an hour, so that the finale can be kind of a wrap-up episode, but regardless, today's episode did an excellent job building anticipation for what's to come in the future. I am really looking forward to what's going to take place next episode. But before we discuss what took place today, I will say spoiler warning for those who have not seen Rwby Volume 7, Episode 10, as I will not be showing the episode or any clips from it in this video. Simply images of the episode and analyzing the events that take place. I will leave a link in the description below, so you guys can go to Rooster Teeth first, watch the episode there, and support the series that we all love. Now, this episode starts off in Mantle's most dire hour as it's being literally overrun by Grimm. We got sabers, Beowulfs, Pteryxes, you know, those flying Grimm that we saw last episode that kind of look like a cross between a pterodactyl and a velociraptor? Yeah, they're called Pteryxes, or as I like to call them, baby Kevins, as they share some similarities to the wyvern but are smaller, and also Megaliaths that are charging into the city of Mantle en masse. Now, Megaliath, which is what they're called, and as their name implies, are related to the Goliaths that we saw in volumes 1 to 3. You remember those, right? Those giant walking mammoth-style Grimm that were in the countryside of Vale? Yeah, the ones that Oobleck told Rwby not to fight because they are very old, very strong, and smart, that they are only biding their time. And, well, for the Megaliaths, at least, their time is now, and with them invading the city, it's a very bad and difficult situation. Now, there's a lot of people that are fighting the Grimm, all of our huntsmen and huntresses, as well as the soldiers of Atlas. And the soldiers themselves are doing some good. They are taking out quite a few of the smaller Grimm. But even the smaller Grimm are in such numbers that they are still getting overwhelmed. We see a team of Nora, Weiss, and Marrow, which is the first time we've seen these three together on a team, which is interesting, and they're fighting some sabers that were attacking some civilians. And then we cut to Blake, as she's in a bit of a tight spot as well. She's being chased by a charging Megaliath along with some sabers. And, yeah, not a very good situation to be in either. Yang is picking off the sabers as they go to attack Blake, and Elm is there as well. It's the team of Blake, Yang, and Elm uses her roots and stops a charging Megaliath in its tracks. Think about that for a second. Think about the size of this Grimm, and it's charging full speed. Now, she can use her semblance to lock herself in place, but she still needs the muscle strength to be able to stop this charging beast of a Grimm, so that she doesn't, you know, get torn right off of her legs and there's just, you know, her feet left there. The amount of strength that this woman has is insane. Nora is strong. She was able to bench 5 of herself back in Volume 3, but I think Elm could easily best Nora in a test of strength, just based on this alone. This is insane. And not only just stopping it, she also lifts it into the air so that Yang can slide under and put some of her explosive darts into its stomach, and then Elm tosses it into the air so that Yang can detonate it without damaging the city. So yeah, Elm is quite strong. And after they do this, all of them are quite exhausted. They've probably been fighting Grimm for a while, but it still goes to show how difficult it is to take out even a single Megaliath. And then we cut briefly to Crow and Clover, as Clover's getting some more orders from Ironwood, and then they take off to, well, a location we'll see later in the episode. And we also cut back to Nora and the rest of her team as they're surrounded by civilians in a little bit of an opening next to the wall of Mantle. All of the streets that lead to this opening are turning red, implying that Grimm are on their way and the people are starting to panic, which makes sense as their backs are literally against the wall. And they start turning on Nora, asking, what is Ironwood doing? Why isn't he evacuating us to Atlas? A fair question, since Atlas is in the sky, all of these Grimm on the ground, the Megaliaths, the Beowulfs, the sabers, wouldn't be able to touch them. And so Nora's trying to tell them all to calm down as they are getting increasingly angry, but in the nick of time, the screen turns on behind them. And who else but the hero of Mantle appears on screen? Robin Hill. And she's not alone. Also, hand in hand, there with her, is Ironwood. Robin's using her semblance, which is glowing green, showing that everything Ironwood is saying is the absolute truth. And what he says is very important, something that we've been anticipating since the beginning of Volume 7. He tells them that the evil that lurks outside the walls goes by the name Salem, that she aims only to divide them, that she's trying to incite hatred and panic, which will draw the Grimm and in and of itself destroy them all. And then Robin chimes in saying that, she's not alone. She also has minions who have already infiltrated Mantle. Tyrion Callows, which, if people would remember in Mantle, that, a famed serial killer would possibly cause more panic, as well as Arthur Watts. They are the ones responsible for all the shit that's been happening to Mantle. The massacre that took place, as well as turning off the heating grid. So the reason that they're all freezing to death is because of them, not Ironwood. And Ironwood also goes on to explain that all the resources that have been diverted from Mantle were going to Amity Tower. And he says that it's a new communications tower that is now complete and ready to launch. And because of that, he's going to divert all defenses from Amity to go and help Mantle, to evacuate them all to Atlas. And then Robin gets all of the public on their side by saying, I fully support Ironwood in his plan. And all of the public starts cheering and accepting this. Now, this is for a couple reasons. I'm sure a couple people may have found it hard to believe that everyone in Mantle just accepted all of this so easily, which I can understand, but this makes sense why the people accepted it. They've been looking for a light of hope, something to turn to. The two people that they want to trust are Robin Hill, which they do trust, she's the hero of Mantle, and Ironwood, whom they have been losing trust in for a long time. But now Robin has completely renewed that trust by using her semblance and by saying that she supports Ironwood, that they are now working together. So all of Mantle is now very happy that people are fighting for them. Plus, also, they've been offered evacuation from Mantle to Atlas, where the Grimm can't touch them. I think the reality of the Grimm having a master will set in a bit later after all of this panic has died down. Now, one thing about this speech that stood out to me, that I think Robin's aura should have blipped red. I'm assuming it's red when someone's lying. It should have blipped red for just a brief moment. When Ironwood said that Salem's only goal is to divide them. That's not her only goal, and Ironwood knows this. She's after the relics and the maidens, as well as dividing all of humanity and having them wiped out. So I feel like that should have blipped red, but, I can understand why Ironwood isn't telling everyone about the relics and the maidens. Not really important at that point, not really something that the overall public needs to know, because it would probably just cause more problems. I don't even know if he told Robin and the rest of the council about that, but we'll see in later episodes. Now, it wasn't just the people of Mantle and Atlas who were watching this broadcast. No. It was also Cinder and Neo, as well as Watts and Tyrion themselves, which means that Watts now knows about the Amity Project, and he's confused as to how Ironwood got this past him. Also, while this conversation, or this speech was going on, while Ironwood was addressing the public, there was a little interaction between another team of huntsmen that was fighting. Jean, Ren, and Vine. They were trying to protect a group of civilians as well, as a bunch of sabers was charging, and Vine just showing off how well he can project his aura. He sends his aura out and pretty much splits the Grimm horde in half and pins them against the walls. For him to have that strength in his aura that far away from his body is pretty impressive. And then Jean, in a bit of a cute scene, takes charge and orders everyone to line up, put their hands on the person's shoulder in front of them, and start walking. Not only that, he also turns to the children and says, show them how it's done, kids, because, they've done it before. When he was guiding them across the crosswalk, that's how he got them to stay together and stay safe. The beauty of this scene is great. Jean takes charge as well as calming the children, who I'm sure were more scared than anyone else. He says, it's up to you to show them how it's done. They know how to do this. The adults don't, so they can take charge. I really love that they put that in there. And, of course, they had to add in that Vine asked him, how did you learn to do that? And he's like, well, the walk to school before, you know, when he was guiding people across the street, etc. But I'm really glad that they threw that in there. And then we also cut to Tyrion and Watts as, well, Tyrion's pissed because the Grimm are supposed to destroy their enemies, not make them friends. I love that line from Tyrion. But Watts also says that, you know, our little tin soldier's heart has cost him his brain, because he revealed about Amity Coliseum that it's going to be a new communications tower before it had launched, and he's diverting all of its defenses to help Mantle, leaving it completely defenseless. So Watts asks Tyrion to, you know, keep everyone's eyes on Mantle currently, which is something, of course, he can do, as Robin Hill is still on screen at the time. He comes up with a brilliant idea, exactly what we saw in the opening of Volume 7, that he is going to go after Robin Hill. And Watts is going to go after Amity Tower, and see what he can do there. We also see Cinder and Neo and what their plans are. Cinder's a little bit confused, surprised that Watts and Tyrion beat her to Atlas, because, you know, Vacuo, as far as she knew, was the next target. So plans have changed. But her goal still remains the same. And this is where I'm really happy to see that Cinder wants the relic. She turns to Neo and says, the farm boy has the lamp, right? Go and steal it. She wants Neo to go get the relic. And Neo, of course, is just like, well, what about Rwby? And Cinder says, no, we need to get what I need first before we get what we want. So she's putting her needs above, you know, the wants of both of them, so I have a feeling Neo may not exactly go along with that. But Cinder's goals are not just to kill Rwby. She still wants the relic to redeem herself in Salem's eyes, and not only that, she wants to find the Winter Maiden, which she claims she'll be able to do tonight. Which seems to be hinting that if Cinder does go after the Winter Maiden, she's going to run into Winter Schnee, who's probably there guarding the Maiden. We didn't see Winter at all this episode, so I'm guessing that's where she is, and there's going to be a confrontation between Winter and Cinder, which is a fight I know at least a few people have been looking forward to, and I'm looking forward to it now myself. Whether Neo will actually follow Cinder's plan, whether Oscar will actually be able to talk to Neo and convince her out of, you know, stealing the relic, or maybe Neo will even just go after Rwby instead of following Cinder's orders. Few things that could happen here. And back in Mantle, the evacuation has already started. Ships are arriving to carry people up to Atlas, but the Grimm aren't going to sit idly by and just let this happen. We see that Blake and Yang, as they are loading a group of people onto a ship, well, a group of 3 Megalithics start charging them. Elm is going to solo this, though, because she plants herself with her semblance and launches 2 rockets from her weapon. So her weapon can change from a hammer to a rocket launcher. Where have we seen that before? I don't know. Maybe I'm just imagining things, but she sets it down and it looks like she only has 2 rockets that she can possibly shoot at one time out of her rocket launcher. I'm guessing there's only a capacity for 2 in there as well. She fires both of them off and they strike 2 of the Megalithics, destroying them. And somehow all 3 of them are gone. I don't know if this is just an animation error, because there were clearly 3 Megalithics, and she had 2 rockets, which struck. Each of them hit 1 Megalith in the face. Maybe the 3rd one was destroyed because of the impact or shockwave as well, but I don't know. Might be an animation error. If you noticed something I didn't, let me know in the comments below, but, you know, they were able to take it out and everything went okay. And we also see that Harriet and Rwby, who are also the only team of 2 that we see, are trying to evacuate some civilians as well. They need to get to the next loading zone, but before they can get there, an elder Megalith blocks their path. A giant one that has bigger spikes, bigger tusks, and is probably just an older, stronger version of a Megalith. Penny even shows up to try to help them, but she's not able to do much damage against it either. She's not in a good spot, Harriet's not in a good spot. Rwby seems to try to activate her Silver Eyes. She tries to focus, but isn't really able to. And she also looks to her hip where the lamp used to hang, where it was in the finale of Volume 6 when she took out the Leviathan. And since it's not there, she can't use her Silver Eyes. did she really need the focus that Jin's time-stopping power gave her to be able to activate her Silver Eyes? I know she's very inexperienced at it, but still, I would have thought that some of her training would involve, building focus and the ability to focus enough to use her Silver Eyes. I don't know. Maybe we'll see it later this volume, next volume, but I feel like there's something that needs to be expanded on here. And Rwby then comes up with a plan to take out this Megaliath, something that they can't even touch with the weapons that they have. So she talks to Penny, and so Penny goes off along with this plan and steps right in front of the Megaliath and literally charges up a Kamehameha wave. She goes into the position like Kamehameha and blasts the Megaliath with her giant laser beam, which doesn't really stop the Megaliath, but it does slow it down. It's still able to inch forward against it, and Penny breaks off a couple of her swords to start blasting a beam at one of the Megaliath's tusks, heating it up red so it becomes a little bit more brittle, I guess. And once it gets to a certain point, Rwby hops in and cuts it off so that Penny can grab it and slam it into the ground, creating a very strong spike. And so Rwby trips the Megaliath to fall on its own horn and destroy it. A very good plan to take out something that they can't actually damage or kill themselves. And after that's done, now we get to the real good setup for coming, hopefully, next episode. We see Robin with the rest of her team, or at least Joanna, and she tells them to, okay, evacuate all the people you're with. I'm going to go off and search for stragglers. She's going off by herself down a back alley. Not the greatest idea, because Tyrion follows her, and he is obviously going after her. Same as what we saw in the Volume 7 opening. But what we also saw in the Volume 7 opening was that someone came to her rescue. So as Tyrion charges at Robin, Crow and Clover appear to not necessarily protect her, but fight Tyrion alongside her. So now it's 3v1. And also, we see a ship arriving at Amity Tower. All of the defenses are gone from Amity Tower, so the ship's able to just get there, and Watts is able to roam freely through the tower itself. And he notices he's actually complimenting Ironwood's ingenuity, saying, yeah, this'll work. This will be effective as a communication tower to restore all of the communication across Remnant. I'm guessing that's what he was implying, but he also notices, well, I'd hardly say this is complete. And as he enters a familiar scene, the stage, the Colosseum of Amity Tower, the doors close around him and Ironwood welcomes him to the stage. And oh boy, we're in for a good old anime-style fight here as Ironwood jumps from the broadcasting tower and does a superhero-style landing. Watts tosses his bag behind him in a stereotypical anime fight style, and these two are gonna have a showdown. Now, Watts activates his rings, marveling at Amity Coliseum with its biome technology and everything like that, but he says it's also easy to control. He slams his hand with his glowing rings down onto the stage and starts controlling it, as Ironwood takes a shot at him. But Watts has a hard light dust shield that he can block bullets with, which seems to imply that he, in fact, does not have an aura. Granted, he could also be using this so he doesn't have to use his aura to block, but I wonder if Watts has even activated his aura, let alone his semblance. I don't know if his technology-controlling abilities are part of his semblance, or if they're just part of the technology, because the rings seem very small, even in association with, his scroll and everything, to be able to take control of something as large as Amity Coliseum and take control of as many things as it does. I don't know. I feel like maybe his semblance might be involved, but I'm completely fine if Watts is this strong, this terrifying, and this much of a problem without having aura or semblance at all. And we see some different biomes that we did not see in Volume 3 when Amity Coliseum was, the mainstay of the volume. Instead, some floating platforms are rising up, as well as 4 of the 8 squares in the Coliseum stay sunk down. Only 4 of them have raised up, and they're all the same area. And this is where Watts pulls out a very interesting looking gun and says he's not going to give up without a fight. This is where the episode ends, and these fights are going to be fantastic. I have faith in the animators of Rwby, the writers of Rwby. This is going to be really, really good. We have Ironwood versus Watts 1v1. And then there's Tyrion versus Robin, Crow, and Clover. Which I'm going to say this. With Tyrion versus Robin and Crow and Clover. Now, if Clover's a traitor, this is the time. This is when he's going to reveal himself and join Tyrion fighting alongside him. And I have a feeling that might actually be the case because in the Volume 7 opening, we were introduced to the Ace Operatives. Clover, Harriet, Vine, Elm, everyone, including Marrow as well. Like, all of them were introduced in the opening of Volume 7. And we already knew that they were going to be fighting alongside the rest of our teams, Team Rwby and Team Juniper, as they were fighting the Geist Grimm in the opening. But when Tyrion was attacking Robin, it was only Crow that came to fight alongside her. Clover was not shown fighting there in the opening, which makes me think that maybe he's going to switch sides at this point and fight alongside Tyrion, or maybe take off and go somewhere else because he has some other plans to maybe go attack Ironwood along with Watts or something. I don't know. But if he's going to be a traitor, this is the time where it will be revealed. And then we also have Neo, in theory, going off against Oscar to go take the lamp and the relic, or potentially even just going to target Rwby because she has no reason to follow Cinder's plans. Like, really, at this point, Neo has been the one who got Cinder to Atlas. Neo has been the one who found out all this information. Cinder has done nothing to help. She's just been sitting in a hotel room this entire time. So Neo hasn't really needed Cinder, really at all, other than finding out that, well, Rwby is heading to Atlas and that's where Neo needs to go. But Neo's been doing all the work to get there and find all the information, so I feel like Neo has no need for Cinder at this point. Especially since Cinder is now going after the Winter Maiden, which means that Cinder might be fighting against Winter. Or Winter Schnee, I should say, not the Winter Maiden, because, you know, Freya's not really in a position where she could fight currently. But, yeah, a lot of things being set up. We're going to get Tyrion versus Robin and Crow, and Clover will be the wild card. Ironwood versus Watts, potentially Neo versus Oscar, or Neo versus Rwby. And I hope that Neo actually does go to Oscar, and that Oscar is able to talk to Neo and maybe convince her out of doing what she was going to do, and make her break away from Cinder's side, something like that. Then Cinder versus Winter, like, the finale, or these last few episodes of Volume 7 are gearing up to be fantastic, very fight-centered, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, how I think this is all going to sort of accumulate is Watts is going to be defeated, Tyrion's going to be defeated, and I don't know about Cinder. I don't know if she's going to be defeated as well. I think she's probably going to be able to best Winter, and Freya will end up dying, but the powers are not going to go to Cinder, they're going to go to someone else. I already made a video about that, and I still think that kind of holds true. And then Neo is a bit of a wild card as well as what's going to happen with her. Now, one question I do have, though, do you guys think that in this fight between Ironwood and Watts, do you think Watts is going to be able to take control of Amity to an extent where he can cause damage to it and prevent it from being launched, prevent the communications from being restored globally? I think Ironwood will end up defeating Watts, and Watts and Tyrion will be captured to then be rescued by Salem and her forces when they actually arrive, either as the finale of Volume 7, giving sort of a prequel to what's to come in Volume 8, or hopefully in Volume 8 itself. I feel like this overall disaster will be dealt with, and then as they are recovering from it, then Salem's going to arrive personally with all of her Grimm, because now that Atlas and Mantle know about Salem, now they can see Salem herself. I think that would be a very nice way to put it. And then Tyrion and Watts could get rescued along with Cinder, or maybe Cinder will emerge victorious, get the relic, get it to Salem. There's a lot of things that could happen, but I do think that our main team is going to pull out at least a couple victories out of this volume. But let me know what you guys think. How do you think the remainder of Volume 7 is going to play out? What did you think of this episode? Let me know what you think the outcomes are going to be of each of the different matchups. Or if you think the matchups and the fights that are going to take place are different than the ones I think that is going to take place. Let me know down in the comments below. I really look forward to seeing what you guys think. So, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already and want to see some more Rwby content. And I'll see you guys in the next video.